Oh, okay. So are we live? Okay. Can you guys hear me? I correctly hit the all live button. Okay. Let's hope so. It says I didn't get the normal thing. All right, correct. Good. Great. Fantastic. We are live. That is right. Welcome to the live stream. We are turning poops, life's poop, into profits for us. No cash, no credit, no degree, no problem. You got everything you need right up in your head. I promise you, life has provided in abundance for you if you just know how to pull it out of you. So, as we are doing this live, I am inviting you to participate in this with me. I sound a little Legion-like. Okay, I'm not sure what that is about, but okay. Any rate, I'll do my best. So anyway, hey, Riffs, how are you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, it really can't be helped. My sound probably sounds like crap, but you know, we get better as we go along. What I'm mostly worried about is getting you this content. Oh, an echo. Ew. Definitely nothing I can do about that. We're going to have to just deal for the moment. Any rate, I promise you the content will be worth the crappy audio. Oh. Oh, nice. Day off this week. Yes, I appreciate days off. I'm sure you do too. All right, but maybe if we work together, you guys won't have to wait for days off. You guys can carve your own days off whenever you choose to. All right, so I'm going to flip over here, and we are actually going to launch the program. Yay! So like I said, this is turning problems into profits. It's how to transform life's problems into opportunities for unlimited profit. And I'm going to start with a story. So there's these two guys, and they're both working at a stable for a farmer. And he's got like 20 horses. So their job is to shovel the crap out of the stalls. There is nothing but poop all day. Poop, poop, everywhere, poop. And the one guy just can't stand his job. It's hot, it stinks, it's backbreaking, and it never ends because the horses are just never going to stop pooping, right? And the other guy is grateful. He's grateful that he has an opportunity to use this to provide for his family. So his attitude's already better when he shows up to work. Now, over time, the second guy, the guy with the better attitude, notices that everywhere they put the poop, flowers grow in abundance there. Like they start growing and accelerating. And he starts putting two and two together. Okay, so this is good for growing things. So he goes to the farmer and he says, hey, look, do you mind if I put the poop in bags and offer it to other farmers for them to use that don't have horses? He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Do whatever you want with it. And he does offer to give like 20% profit to the farmer. So the farmer's making extra money with no extra effort. And our poop guy is making profit from the poop that he's having to shovel all day. So he's getting richer. Bad attitude guy, he's not going anywhere. In fact, he gets fired eventually because his attitude's so crappy. And when he hardly ever shows up, and then when he does show up, he does nothing but complain. The point of the whole story is, look, no matter how much poop life is shoveling your direction, it's not an accident that it's in your life. It is there to help you, not to harm you. And all you got to do is figure out exactly what to do with that poop. And you can make a profit. Oh, hey, Snug. Good to know. Good to know. Glad you joined. I haven't really launched, so you're good. You just missed the fun poop story. All right. So, all right. Here we go. Now, this course is for you if you want financial freedom, but you feel like you're drowning in an ocean of problems you don't know how to solve. You don't have any degrees, credentials, or money to use in starting a business. You don't know how to get other people to pay you for the talents, gifts, and skills you got, even though you know they're valuable. You've gotten yourself deeply in debt trying to pursue degrees and careers that haven't brought you the financial freedom they promised. And you want a better way to live life, but you don't know how to get there yet. Hey, 2 Yards, good to see you. All right, so if that described you, you are in the right place, I promise. In fact, I put together this stream because I'm thinking of all of the people in our little guitar community and in my art community and in my writing community who are just struggling to get by every day. And all the people who've been laid off this year, all the people who have just faced something that is kicking the legs right out from underneath them. So in the course of this, now I don't know how much of this we're going to be able to get through in the next hour or two. I don't know. But I'm going to get through as much as I can. We may have to come and break it up into another session. So I'm going to teach you how to turn every problem into an opportunity for profit. I promise you, there is a way. You're going to leverage your life experience to build your credibility. You're going to calculate the value of the things you can do and offer so you can explain that value to others and get them to pay you. You're going to put your problems to work for you, helping you repay your debts and achieve the financial freedom you desire. And you're going to use your problems as the stepping stones you need to build the life of your dreams. I promise you it's all possible. So who am I? Basically, I'm the co-owner of NV Creative Technology, Infinite Possibility Media, LLC, 40-Day Writer, LLC. I'm the Director of Program Development Coordination for Path to Publishing, Chief Acquisitions Editor for P2P Press, co-founder of Path to Connections, founder of Loving Catholicism. I am a busy woman, generally speaking. This summer has been a little bit slower because I've been also playing Grammy daycare in the middle of all that. So that's a little bit about who I am. But most important thing to know, I'm also an award-winning international speaker and author, and I've accomplished all this with no money in the bank, leveraging just my skills at turning problems into profits. Okay, I've been invited all over the place. And all I did was show up and share what I know. So here's what makes me qualified to teach. I am not, if you looked in my bank account today, you would not see stacks and loads of money. That isn't because I don't know how to make stacks and loads of money. That is because my goal is not money in life, and I'll explain why later. My goal is to help as many people as possible, so I don't care if I get paid for it. That isn't my priority in life. I'm an award-winning international speaker and author who knows how to tell a story, and I developed a universal storytelling system. It actually works for musicians too if they're writing lyrics. I've helped business owners start their businesses on a $0 marketing budget, and I promise that is possible. And I've helped them make connections that gain traction in a crowded marketplace. I just helped somebody win Micro Enterprise of the Year for the state of Nevada. And I don't ask you to trust me, though. Okay, because I can tell you all kinds of stuff about myself. It doesn't matter. What matters is, does the content work? So I ask you to test this system I teach you today and see if it works for you. If it works, you know it's good. If it doesn't work, throw it out. It's crap. That's my bottom line. See, I'm someone who tested God's word and I found it true. And I'll explain that statement in just a moment. So here's my story. Right? At the age of 4, my father abandoned me, and I wrote a short story in my head that explained why, that said, in essential, I am not lovable. I blame 2 things for making me unlovable: my poverty and my imperfections and failures. I thought I had to be perfect and rich to be loved. So I set 3 goals at age 4 that would drive every decision from that point forward. I want you to think about this for a moment. Would you ever put a 4-year-old in charge of driving a car? No, you would not. But when you don't confront the stories that you set at a younger age, you are in essence putting that 4-year-old in the driver's seat of your life. So if your life kind of looks like a wreck, that's probably why. Now, like I said, I set 3 goals that drove every decision I made from that point forward. I would overcome my poverty by becoming a business owner so I could be rich. Nobody would ever look down on me for being poor again. I'd become famous so everybody would know me and love me. And I would become a great saint so I could be perfect like God wanted me to be, and he would love me. I didn't, that last sentence came out of listening to, being in Mass one day and hearing in the gospel reading Jesus say, so be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. And I didn't realize that what that meant is, as human beings, we can't be perfect except with the help of God. So I thought I had to be perfect on my own before God could love me. And what God wanted me to do was explore perfection through him. At any rate, but that's another story for another day. And then the love that changed my life. So at age 13, I met the man I would marry, and for the first time found someone who loved me for me without needing me to do anything to earn it. And boy, was that confusing. You'd think it'd be easy to understand. It wasn't. It was against every experience I'd ever had up to that point. And at 16, I left the Catholic faith because I thought it was the enemy of the love I'd found, my dreams, and my happiness. And 3 years later, I find out I'm pregnant just as we lose our place to live, our jobs, and every bit of hope that I had just seemed lost. But taking a leap of faith, I went ahead and kept my son and gave birth to him, and that decision would save my life. Not even 4 years later. And I am not exaggerating about that. It's not an AI image, I promise you. That is how young he looked. So here were the problems that drove me to despair. So, age 23, I'm sitting there at the kitchen table. My husband walks through the door. I can tell right away stuff's hit the fan. He didn't even have to say a word. And then he looks up at me and he says, I lost my job. And he heads to the bedroom and he leaves me alone. And I have no idea how we're going to pay rent. I have no idea. All I can see is us becoming homeless. We were homeless right before my son's birth, so this is not a stretch of the imagination. And I'm just totally freaking out. Hey, it's Keith. Good to see you. At any rate, I felt like I was drowning in this ocean of problems that I was powerless to solve. I didn't even know if there were solutions, literally. I feared that my son, my husband, and I would end up starving and homeless, and maybe my son would even be taken away from me. So I fell into despair, and I was staring at a bottle of pills, wondering just how many of those I had to take to end it all. And then, I thought about who would take care of my son if I weren't there. I ran through the list of people I knew, which was a very short list. And I couldn't think of anybody I trusted with him. And then the next thought was, I should just take him with me. And I'm eternally grateful that thought crossed my mind, because it shook me so much. The fact that I'd realized and thought about taking my own son's life, even for a moment, horrified me. And I decided no matter how long it took or what I had to do, I would find a way to make his life better than mine. And so just 4 years later, though, he's standing in my bedroom. He's not even 8 years old, looking me in the eyes, telling me that not only is he going to kill himself, but he's telling me exactly how he's going to do it, and he has a backup plan in case the first plan didn't work. And I didn't know what we'd done to break our baby so badly that death was preferable to life. I knew I had to find out, and I had to find out fast. So coming back to the faith, this is what brought me back. Now, my search for answers led me back to the Catholic faith I'd left behind, and God began helping me turn my problems into profits. So in 2004, I'd been struggling to write a book since I was in my teens. And at 29, I finally got it done. And from 2007 to 2010, God began teaching me the power of relationships and the value of connections in achieving success in life. So in 2011, my husband and I started NB Creative Technology Services because we were living in a really small remote town and we just couldn't find work that would pay enough for us to survive. It turned out to be our first semi-successful business. In 2012, I published my first book. It wasn't supposed to be published. It was actually created as a lead magnet for the business we'd started, but then somebody wanted to publish it, and so I said sure, because I was totally ignorant. In 2013, I decided to start a writers group based on that book, and I began working with writers to help them become published authors. And in 2014, I published the Poverty Diaries with excerpts from my diaries of years spent in poverty. I didn't do that because I was proud of being poor. I was doing that because it was the only thing I could think of to offer to help us raise money to get to my son's boot camp graduation. It was going to cost us $1,200 plus the hotel, and we didn't have that kind of money. So I didn't know what else to do, so I started to GoFundMe and offered the Poverty Diaries as a reward for those who contributed. We got enough money to get to his graduation, but not enough to get home, and that's kind of a story for another day. But in 2016, I founded 40 Day Writer LLC after getting my first boot camp, or not my first boot camp, my first ghostwriting client. And I stumbled into that because I was following God's instructions and went into a Facebook group, and she just happened to be looking for help with her story. And at any rate, so me figuring out how to write stories, how to overcome the problem of not knowing how to finish a story, turned into a ghostwriting business that I started in 2016. In 2019, I published Turning Problems into Profits. What happened was that God woke me up on a Saturday morning, and the same problems that nearly killed me at 23, at 43, I'm dancing around my bedroom going, I have problems. I have problems, because God literally showed me in that dream that every problem I faced in my past and didn't know how to, and had learned how to solve was profit for today, and every problem I didn't know how to solve was profit for tomorrow. And I was never going to run out of problems, but that was actually incredibly good news, because it also meant I was never going to be without opportunity to profit again. I might not know everything I needed to know then to apply that, but it was hope. It was always going to be hopeful. Yes, God always provides, so much so, and in abundance. So I published the Turning Problems into Profits. That led me to get invited on this tour in the UK, which I did with that summer, which I ended up getting COVID for the first time out of that. But I also got an invitation to speak on stage in London before an international audience because of that tour. And I received a Shine Legacy Award for creative strategy because of it. In 2021, I began working with Joylyn Ross of Path to Publishing, who's a publishing services provider. In 2022, I received the Literary Ambassador Award from Path to Publishing. 2023, I received an Influential Women in Literature Award from And I Thought Ladies Media. And this isn't in here yet, but what happened this past year was the business that I helped Joylyn with became nominated for a Micro Enterprise of the Year award from the SBA. So it was really, God has taken me amazing places. And so I want to pass on this knowledge to other people so they have a chance to know that you don't have to stay where you are. No matter how bad your situation is, there is always a way forward. So in May of 2024, I became homeless after years of digging my heels and refusing to do what God wanted me to do, which is in 2016, he asked me to start teaching the people the very lessons he'd taught me about how to turn my problems into profits without charging people. I wanted money because I still had a transactional mindset, and he wanted them to know how much he loved them and how much potential and possibility they had within them no matter where they were in life. In August of 2024, I surrendered everything to Christ, and I put this course together for you. Okay, so he is the reason I have every good thing in my life. He is going to help you turn every problem you face into the past, into today's opportunities for profit, and every problem you don't yet know how to solve into tomorrow's opportunities. And that's my story, and I'm sharing it not because I think I'm special, but because I want you to know if you've got 99 problems, opportunities for profit isn't one of them. So thank God for your problems. This is actually the first step, okay? Those problems are not there by accident. Remember the difference in what happens when you have a good attitude about the poop you're facing in life versus a bad attitude. The bad attitude, you end up making your situation worse. The stink doesn't change, the back-breaking work doesn't change, the heat doesn't change, the endless routine of it doesn't change. The only thing you can change is your attitude. So this is also a lesson God taught me, right? We know that in everything God works for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And you don't have to believe that. I'm proving it to you. So getting my perspective right about problems. Like I said, at 23, nearly took my own life over my problems and my son's with me. At 32, God instructed me to thank him for my problems because he allowed them for my good and his glory, and that should be good enough for me. At 43, like I said, he woke me up from that dream. And that November, right before 2020, right before all the pandemic stuff, I wrote the book that forms the foundation of this course. I was hoping that people would find it and be helped through COVID. Well, I didn't even know COVID was coming, so I can't say that I would hope they would find it and be helped through COVID. But when I wrote it and released it in November, I didn't know COVID was coming. I just knew God gave me this and I needed to get it out there. So the good news about our problems is everyone, even God, has problems, right? God's got roughly 8 billion of them by last count. And these problems form the basis of every successful business. They shake us out of our complacency, boot us out of our comfort zones, and put us on the road to spiritual, emotional, and mental growth. And they provide opportunities to fulfill the purpose for which God created us. Yeah, absolutely, Will. Gratitude is where all good things begin. So problems give us common ground. If you're looking for common ground with other people in the world, you have it. Your problems are it. The problems we faced in life and learned to overcome give us common ground with people who have faced those same problems right now, right here. They give us credibility because we can say, yeah, we've shared that experience. They give us insight. We understand that problem from the inside out. And they give us wisdom that no amount of education or certifications can replace. If you've ever dealt with somebody who's got a college degree but no experience in the position, you know that theory and experience have miles between them. There is a world of difference between the two. So here's more good news about problems. In this life, you will always face problems. That's not a problem. It means that no matter when or where you live, you'll always have opportunities to make a difference in the world by developing a business or serving others in a way that can set you financially free. So the problem isn't our problems, it's our perspective on our problems. It's the story we tell ourselves about what those problems mean for us and our future, and that's what makes all the difference. That's what turns problems into burdens instead of opportunities. The greatest difference between you and the rich know the value of what they've got, and they know how to leverage that value to get what they want or need. You don't. But I'm going to teach you how to find your unique value and put that value to work for you. So the truth about your problems, everything that's happened to you, God allowed for you in order to transform you into the star you were meant to be, so you can take your place in heavens and lead those lost in the darkness to the love they are literally sometimes dying to find. Okay? Stars do not get made in easy circumstances. It takes cosmic dust being put under ridiculous amounts of pressure, until it has only two choices. It's either going to ignite and become a light that shines so bright that light years away from it, people are walking from its light, or it's going to implode on itself and become a black hole and suck the light and life out of everything around it. And just like the star, you get to choose which version of you you're going to become. Exactly. So you get to choose what you'll do with that. You can either choose to allow God to ignite you and become a star that burns so bright its light can be seen galaxies away, or you can collapse in on yourself and become a black hole that sucks the light and life out of everyone you encounter. And it really is up to you. And there are some days when I feel like a black hole, so if you are in a black hole moment, don't blame yourself. Just ask God for the help to change things, to change direction. Now, your story is your greatest tool. You don't need more than your story to do this work. But to get the attention of an audience, it's got to be the right story for them, a story that speaks to their struggle, their challenges, and their problems. So in the next bit, we're going to talk about the power of your story. More than that, we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And problems also are the hallmark of suffering, and those produce profits. So stories in the brain. I'm teaching you some of the mechanics of how you work and how your brain works so that you can get in the head of the people you're going to try and later do business with. This is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. Matthew 13:13. So, understanding how the brain works matters. Every human behavior is motivated by a need, and the brain exists to help us fulfill those needs. God's a genius. He built us that way, right? Memory is an instrument for survival. Our memory exists to help us find the things that fulfill our needs and avoid the things that endanger our lives. The brain stores memories by their relationship to others. It's not chronological. That's why you can sometimes just smell something and suddenly you remember grandma's house because it reminds you of where you were. Emotions flag memories as important. Emotionally charged events get flagged for immediate entry into our memory. The stronger the emotion, the faster the imprinting. And the brain does this because it sees emotions as indicators of how essential the memories are to our survival. That's why your songs, when you produce them, the music you produce can have lifelong changes in the person who hears it because you're triggering their emotions. Okay? And the stronger the emotion you trigger, the faster it imprints on their brain. Something important for you to remember. Now, how our beliefs are formed. The brain analyzes emotionally charged events, seeking a cause for them, tags the memory with the story of why it happened, whatever translation it made, so that it can leverage the experience to predict future outcomes. Those why explanations start forming our core beliefs. Like, remember, I told you at the beginning, my why it happened, why did my dad abandon me? My 4-year-old's explanation was because I'm not lovable. That's not a true belief, but it's the belief that I formed. And these ideas, when new information is introduced to us, the brain searches for an existing memory and existing knowledge to use to connect it to what we already know. So ideas form when new information connects to old, allowing us to see new possibilities. That's why you may be showering, right? And all of a sudden you've got this idea, this inspiration that comes to you, maybe for new song lyrics, maybe for a new lick or a riff on your guitar. And suddenly you just know you got to go over there and write that down. You've got to capture it because you know it's gonna leave you if you don't. So here's how we build assumptions. Now, imagination is how the brain predicts what's going to happen next. It uses past experience as the framework to predict your future events. And assumptions are the brain applying past experiences and information to a present situation to predict the outcome. That's why sometimes it's really hard for you to solve your own problems, because your brain is trying to solve the present problem with past information that isn't necessarily relevant to what's happening right now. Bias is our beliefs, ideas, assumptions, and stories. These beliefs, ideas, and assumptions get stored as short, single-sentence summaries of how life works. Like, for instance, you may encounter somebody who doesn't believe in God, right? And so their belief is God doesn't exist. The idea is it doesn't matter what I do. The assumption, I can do whatever I want. And the story is nobody has the right to tell me what to do. And you cannot talk them out of that, right? If they're hung up on that story, they are not going to change it. Their brain will literally kick out anything that contradicts that bias because it sees it as key to survival. Oh, no worries, Two Love. You can always watch the replay, man. So here's how the brain decides what to remember. The brain is constantly receiving information, being bombarded with it, 10,000 pieces of data a day. And it must filter that, deciding what to remember and what to discard. So it first runs the information through a bias filter, beliefs, ideas, assumptions, and stories, and then discards anything that contradicts our bias as dangerous to our survival. Stories bypass our bias, and so does music. Like when we hear or read a story, we live the experience through the eyes of that main character. Our brain suspends our natural bias system and takes on the perspective of the main character. So when you're writing lyrics, for instance, it's being heard through the filter of a main character who's telling them the story of what's happening, or who's speaking the dialogue that's in that lyric. And what happens to that main character, the brain records as having happened to us. So it's the same as far as the brain is concerned. And now that we talked about the power of stories, let's talk about how to tell one. You don't have to be a natural storyteller to tell a great story. I'm going to give you an outline you can use to tell any kind of story you need to tell. It's the same outline Christ gave to me through the rosary, so I know it works. It's based on the gospel. Tell your children of it, and let your children tell their children and their children to another generation. Now you may be thinking, okay, this is a lot of talk about memory and bias and stories, and how in the heck does this relate to a business? But stick with me. I promise you that is coming. So my encouragement to you is to make love the foundation of your business. And there's a reason for that, right? For God is love, 1 John 4:8. So first of all, if you believe in God, God is love, and you're literally inviting him into your business. You're making him a partner and a foundation of your business. That's always going to go well for you. But money can bring a lot of misery. Our society tells us, Smith, money will make your problems go away. The truth, money won't stop the problems. They just change the nature of them. They happen to amplify every insecurity and fear you have. I have ghostwritten for a whole lot of multimillionaires, and I can tell you for a fact that's true. The money didn't make their insecurities or fears go away. It just amplified them. So trading relationships for money is stupid. I listened to the stories of dozens of these multimillionaires, and I found a common thread among them all. They focused their attention on earning money over developing relationships. They reached the top and wondered, is this all there is to life? And instead of being filled with joy, they were miserable and lonely. And they found themselves too afraid to let go of what they built to seek out authentic happiness and joy. They were afraid of who they'd be without the money. And that's kind of where you can get. So where they went wrong. Love, not money, is the source of all hope and joy. Money cannot buy love. And sacrificing relationships to acquire money is like trading bars of gold to acquire a mountain of fool's gold. So let's look at what we can learn from psychology, right? Maslow's mistake. In 1943, Abraham Maslow's theory of motivation proposed that human needs existed in a kind of hierarchy of importance. Only after man's physiological needs of food, water, shelter, and reproduction were met could man even consider higher needs, quote unquote higher needs, like love and belonging. But let's face it, if Maslow were right, America would be the happiest place on the planet. We have access to more food, water, shelter, and reproductive outlets than any other society in recorded human history. But we're the most miserable and medicated society on the planet. Harlow's corrections. So 15 years later, after Maslow, Harry Harlow's Nature of Love, based on his primate experience, and you should research those are some ugly things, demonstrated that love was such a fundamental need that you could provide those primates with all the food, water, shelter, and simulated reproductive access they could stand. But without love, they would choose to die rather than live. And Alexander's reinforcement of Harlow's findings. So nearly 20 years after Harlow's experiments ended, Bruce Alexander's rat-part experiments demonstrated that it is isolation that fuels addiction, not the drugs themselves. We will self-medicate away the pain we feel at not being loved until it kills us. So if the world needs you and your offer, You're here on this earth for a reason, and you've been given a gift that no one else can share. Someone out there may be quite literally dying to receive your story, and with it, the gift of God's placed inside you. They need hope for a better future, and to see that their problems are not a reason for despair, but a cause for celebration. So if you make love the foundation of your business, what you're actually doing is you're going to be able to fulfill client needs that they won't even be able to express that they had. They didn't even know they needed it until they walked in the doors. Let's put it this way. Most of us are familiar with going to Mickey D's, right? For whatever we get, lunch, dinner, whatever. And we know that if we order something off the menu, we might be lucky to get a smile along with it, but we're not going to get a whole lot else. If you walked into that McDonald's, though, and you found at the counter somebody who remembered your name and made you feel like you mattered, who treated you with love and respect, even if you couldn't put your finger on why they stood out to you, you would find reasons to go back to that restaurant. You would talk about that experience, especially if they touched you in a meaningful way. And I'm not talking about physically, please don't. But, you know, if they touched your heart in a meaningful way, you would carry the memory of that with you. And you would have a positive association with your business. If every encounter with you is an encounter with love, people will not forget you. People will be drawn to you. You won't have to fight for the business. They will come to you regardless. I think that's part of what our community, it makes our community so strong, is the people in it are filled with love for each other. And it attracts new people in because the rest of the world ain't like that. So if you make love, not the feeling, but the willingness to sacrifice something of yourself so that they can have what they need, the foundation of your business, you'll be going beyond their surface needs to touch their heart. And not only will your service become unforgettable, it'll become something that people are driven to seek out without even knowing why. So a cautionary note about love. As much as people want love, they don't always receive it well. Genuine love confuses people who don't recognize it for what it is. They can reject it, mock it, ridicule it, push it away out of fear of its motivations, or just walk away. They may even at first attack it, thinking there's got to be something wrong with it. Trying to love people on your own power is going to get you hurt and broken, drained out and emptied. So make sure you're filling up your resources while you do it. Okay? Divine love can do what human love can't. God's love alone is sufficient to meet the needs of human love. His love never dies. His heart can't be wounded by our woundedness. And it's that perfect divine love that Christ gives to us in his church and in the sacraments that you need to fill yourself up with in order to be able to keep love at the foundation of your business. I'm just telling you the facts that I have learned the hard way, not because I insist that you convert to believing what I do, but because I want you to have all the tools you have to succeed. So, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. And that he wants to be in your story. He wants to be in your business. He wants to be in your life. He wants to be with you as you're working with people. And he wants to be helping you succeed, because you were born to succeed. So let's talk about structuring your story. So when you're presenting this to somebody else, it's got to be a story that makes sense for them. So, my brethren, earnestly desire to prophesy, and do not forbid speaking in tongues, but all things should be done decently and in order. See, even stories need to have the right order done. So you start with the problem you face. This is also the blueprint you're going to use for your business, for figuring out what you can offer people. So take a big problem that you faced in your past, one that you thought was never going to be solved, but you've since figured out. That's where you start. This is where the story you tell begins, and it's this problem that your prospect is perhaps literally dying to solve. That's what makes it valuable to them. Like I said, to give you an example, the problem God faces, how do I get my people to choose love over the temptations the world offers? It's a pretty tough sell when love doesn't look like it's going to benefit the bottom line. The mistake you were making at the time. The primary reason people can't solve problems on their own is they're ignorant of the potential solution. Their bias blocks them from seeing or accepting the truth. They lack the skills or necessary strength to do what they're trying to do. So they meet failure instead of success. So the question you need to ask is, what was keeping you from succeeding when you got started, looking to find a solution to that problem? This is how you're building the roadmap of what you're going to offer. You're going to be walking people through solving their problem. And these are the steps you're going to walk them through. Okay, the quote-unquote mistake God made. God doesn't make mistakes. But in the beginning, it can look like he was telling people what to do rather than living among them and showing them what he wanted done. Right? It wasn't actually a mistake. He needed them to understand they couldn't do it on their own. The shocking truth you discovered. This shocking truth is the insight you gained that led you to the solution. By providing this truth, you help the listener and reader see you as an expert and gain the insight they need to understand why they've been struggling for so long. So if you want to form, say, a music album, you could start with the problem you were facing and the way you felt about it in that first moment that it was at its worst, when you had lost all hope and thought there was no way forward. And then you can talk about the struggle, the mistakes you made, and the truth you discovered that helped you fix the problem. And then you can kind of like work them through with your music or with your art. So by providing this truth, you help the listener and reader see you as an expert and gain the insight they need to understand why they've been struggling for so long. So the shocking truth got uncovered. People learn best by modeling an observation of love in action. Now, he already knew that truth. That's why he said the truth, to show us the way, which is the way is love. So 4, the surprising solution you embraced. This is the thing you did that solved the problem. It often makes you feel surprised by how simple it is and how obvious it should have been all along. Like, for instance, if I'd have realized at 23, my problems were opportunities, and if I could solve them, I could help somebody else solve them, that's simple, right? It's not complex. But it took me 20 years to figure it out, and God's help at that. So it often makes you feel surprised by how simple it is and how obvious it should have been all along. And come as Jesus Christ, that's what he did. He united himself to humanity and demonstrated what a life lived with perfect love looks like in action. And that's why he's the way and the truth and the life, because he's the truth about what it takes to love people unconditionally. His life was the way to live it, and, he is the truth about what it takes to love. So the obstacles you encounter, just because you know what to do, doesn't mean you automatically understood how to do it, or that getting it done was easy. So be sure to include the obstacles you encountered along the way so your prospect knows what to expect. Now, the obstacles that God encountered when he sent himself, right? People didn't recognize his love because it didn't show up the way they expected. They didn't value his love because he didn't look rich, live rich, or charge for what he offered them. People didn't understand his teaching because they didn't understand his purpose. And people feared the power his love gave him, so they tried to kill him and succeeded, right? People abused and mistreated and deceived others about what he did and taught, sowing confusion about his love throughout the world. That's a lot of obstacles to get through to help people learn to love. So the answers you found. Now, like I said, what were the answers you found that helped you get past each obstacle? You want to explain those so that you're prepared to meet your obstacle, to help your prospect get over their obstacles every single time. Oh, well, thank you, 2 yards. I'm glad you're still here. So here's the answers God provided. First, doing the unexpected attracts attention. If you show up to serve, you're going to be doing the unexpected, and that will automatically attract attention. Second, refuse to allow other people's assessment of your value to cause you to doubt your worth or stop showing up. Third, let your results speak for themselves. When you show up to serve and you serve other people, the results you can produce, they're going to talk for you. You won't need to tell people how great you are because your results are going to say how great you are. You face up to the worst humanity can dish out, confident that even death can't conquer love. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, Keith. And then establish one holy Catholic Church as an everlasting visible sign where the truth about his love can always be found. That was the whole point of it. People say God didn't come to establish a religion, but he did. Religion is just a set of rules about how to handle relationships. And God definitely wanted us to do better at handling our relationships. 7, the results you were able to achieve. You overcame the obstacles with the answers you found. So what happened as a result of that journey? What were you able to do now that you couldn't do before? And what seemingly insurpassable mountain were you able to move past? So that's the thing you need to give them, right? This is what will attract them. People don't pay you for pretty faces or handsome faces. They don't pay you to make them look good or feel good. They pay you for the results you can deliver. Right? So the results God achieved. It's been more than 2,000 years since Christ's death. In fact, I was just thinking about this the other day. We are 8 years from the 2,000-year anniversary, of Jesus Christ's death. That's pretty amazing, actually. 2,000 years since Christ's death, and people still sing his jingles, they share his teachings, and they pay to learn about him. The value of his work changed the world, and the value of your work can too. No one's ever been able to match what he did. You can't argue with his results. You can argue that you don't think he existed, but his marketing plan was the bomb.com. Nobody's ever been able to market like he did. Love triumphs over every evil in the end, and everyone who comes to the Catholic Church and fully embraces its teaching grows in their capacity to give and receive love. And I can testify to that every day and 6 days on Sunday. So this is where you want to talk about the life transformation you experienced. How did your life, the lives of your family, change once you got that result? Because while, yes, they pay to get the results, what they really want is a transformation. They don't want to be who they are right then. They want to be somebody better. And if you can promise that what you're offering them is going to help them be that better person, experience a better life, that's what they really want. That's what's going to get them to buy in. So what did your family life look like before, and what did it look like after? Will, I've seen your face. You had a pretty enough face. All right, so the life transformation that God achieves. People's lives are still being transformed by Christ today. And I can tell you because I'm one of them. The value of his work can be experienced by anyone who follows him. There's no other God who is love, and no other faith who offers to give us perfect divine love in the form of bread and wine. Hearts wounded by other people's failure to love and our own failures in love heal in his presence. And people who grow in their capacity to give and receive love begin to touch the lives of the people around them and to spread that love to others. And that's a pretty worthwhile transformation. So, all right. So this is where you have to, the last step of this story is to give them a call to action. What do you recommend that the person who's listening to or reading your story do in order to get those same results and achieve that same transformation? Oh yeah, no worries. Thank you. I appreciate you stopping by, Keith. So here's God's call to action, right? This is an example. I am using God as the example because he's a universal, everybody can relate to in their own way, right? He says, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good." That's from Psalm 38. "Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened." That's from Matthew 11:28. "I'm the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And the bread which I shall give for the life of the world is my flesh." That's John 6:51. These are all his call to actions. "And therefore confess your sins to one another and pray for one another that you might be healed." He promises healing if we're willing to do these things. "So let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." That's from Matthew 5:16. Now, your guarantee, right? Based on your experience, what are you going to promise to those who are willing to give your system a try? What are you personally willing to do in order to ensure that they get those results? Like when Randy created the J-Rig system, right? People expect a guarantee. His guarantee is, I'm going to be there. If your stream goes screwy, I'm going to be a phone call away to help make sure we get you back on track. So if you're not sure, don't worry. Later, you and I will be talking about how to create an offer that's pretty compelling to your particular audience. Now, there's God's guarantees. He knows in everything God works for good with those who love him and are called according to his purpose, from Romans 8:28. And I will give you rest, Matthew 11:28. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood abides in me and I in him. That's a guarantee. For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him should have eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. And I am the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. He promises all of those things. They're all guaranteed. It's just what you're going to do with them. So now that you've outlined your story, let's talk about how to use it. Your results are the product you're offering your customer. The transformation is the reason they're going to buy it. The call to action is what you advise them to do to get those results. The guarantee removes the risk involved in taking the action you want them to take. So let's talk about how to find the audience that needs to hear it. Woo! We are on a roll here. Always be prepared to make a defense to anyone who calls you to account for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and reverence. 1 Peter 3:15. So here's how to choose your target audience. To the Jews I became as a Jew in order to win Jews. To those under the law I became as one under the law, though not being myself under the law, that I might win those under the law. 1 Corinthians 9:20. Your story is not for everyone. Your music is not for everyone. Your performances are not for everyone. Even Jesus faced rejection. Even God has haters. Okay? No matter how good you are, no matter how perfect you are, you will not be for everyone. Not everyone will find value in your story because not everyone faces the problem you faced or is ready to solve it if they do. However, to those who are facing that problem right now, they may literally be dying to hear it. So your story can save a life. And the work you do with them to help them reach that ending is also something that can save a life. Our Catholic story is for those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, are dying for lack of love, seek the truth about love, are poor in spirit, and mourn. So if you've got problems, if you're unhappy, if you've got reasons why you feel lonely or afraid, we got it. We got it covered. What you're going to start to do, though, is look for common traits. You want to choose your target audience based on common traits you shared at the time the problem caused you the most pain, such as their age, their race, their gender, their religion, their marital status, family status, social status, education level, occupation, income level, or hobbies. If you know they like something, appeal to them. God's story is a universal story. He's the only one that I would recommend not having a niche audience, right? He appeals to all ages, races, genders, creeds, income levels, occupations, social status, education levels, marital or family statuses. However, your specific story is meant for a more targeted audience. And here's the reason you want to focus on a single target audience. By focusing your energy, your message becomes more powerful. You're able to speak with clarity to the audience's needs, challenges, and desires. I have never been a 50-year-old man. So while I might have things to offer a 50-year-old man, I cannot speak to the experience of what it is to be a 50-year-old man with any kind of credibility. I am better suited to serve somebody whose experiences more closely mirror my own. Yes, it does. Catholic does mean universal. 5 points to 2 yards. All right. You can tailor your language to match theirs, and you know the things they need to hear in order to respond. And 2 yards, you know your audience, right? You know the people that are going to respond to your music, and you know the people that aren't. And it makes it easier if you can identify the exact people who respond the best to your stuff. Because then you don't have to waste your energy trying to chase after every Tom, Dick, and Harry. You are just looking for Larry. All right. So focus on a group you're passionate about serving. The more passion you bring to the service or the music or the writing you deliver, the more your target audience will feel drawn to your work. They'll see themselves in it. Narrow your audience down by choosing the traits you identified with the most during that time in your life. This was me at a book signing, that group that I helped in Elko. So know your why. You're going to be challenged on why you care about that audience and their outcome. Know why it matters to you so much that you help them overcome the problem and get to the results. The reason I care so much about helping other people with this message is a couple of things. I remember what it was like to be drowning in that ocean of problems thinking there was no way out. I don't want anybody else to face a situation where they think there is no hope and not have at least somebody out there telling them, yes, there is hope. The problems you face today are not the end of the world. They're not the end of your life. And they don't need to be the end of your life. You've got a reason and a purpose. Focusing on why is the antidote to discouragement. When you feel like quitting and giving up because you're meeting so much resistance, even though you're doing everything right, refocus on your why. It'll give you the wings to fly past those obstacles. So when you know why you're serving your audience, you're going to show up to serve them whether they appreciate you or not. And how you tell the story makes all the difference. Your intentions matter when you tell a story. Are you telling it to be heard, or are you sincerely telling it to serve? So let's talk about how to bring the right mindset when you're telling your story so you attract the audience you're trying to reach instead of repelling them. I'm sure we've all met people who have beat us over the head with something, and it just makes people want to run the opposite direction. And as for you, brothers and sisters, never tire of doing what is good. 2 Thessalonians 3:13. So let's talk about bringing the right mindset. He who is greatest among you shall be your servant. Matthew 23:11. Seek to serve, not to be served. My biggest mistake in trying to sell my services in the beginning was making it about me and my dreams rather than about them and their dreams. Nobody wants to be used. Put your dreams to death so that you can focus all your attention and energy on helping the people in front of you achieve their dreams. That's how you find your reputation growing and people coming to you without you having to chase them. Service sets you apart. See, 80% of people in any given group are there to get something, not to give it. Being part of that rare 20% looking to give rather than to get sets you apart automatically. Show up that way and you won't have to work the room. The room will work its way to you. Open up and let yourself be loved. The world encourages people to put on a false front and pretend to be who they aren't in order to be loved. Ironically, this actually means that nobody can love them. They can only love the person they're pretending to be. Dare to be vulnerable. See, your courage in being open, honest, and vulnerable not only allows people to love you for who you are, where you are, exactly as you are, it also gives your target audience permission to be open, honest, and vulnerable with you in return. That's why when it comes to music, some of the songs that we love the most are those where the singer is just pouring their heartbreak into the song. And those are the songs that we go to when our own hearts are breaking, because we know that person got it. They understood us. And we're drawn to those singers, we're drawn to those bands because of the way that they touch us emotionally. Your story reveals your heart. And the more honest and raw you can be with your story, the more you reveal your heart, right? Your heart, your humanity, your empathy, your authenticity, your relatability, and your trustworthiness is what will allow the heart of your audience to connect with your story so they open up and listen to what you have to say. Share from your heart, always. It's your humanity, how you got where you are, your empathy, why you care about them and their outcome, the authenticity, what motivates and drives you to open up and share, your relatability, the stumbles and failures you've experienced along the way, and your trustworthiness, the experiences that led you to recommend doing what you do. Take the focus off of you. Remember, it's not about what you did or didn't do. This ultimately isn't about you. It's about showing them that what those things taught you that you can use to help them achieve their dreams, goals, and desires. And now that your mindset is right, let's talk about your offer. What are you willing to do to ensure they get the results you got so you can help them achieve their dreams, desires, and goals? So hopefully, you know what? It is almost 3 o'clock. This is probably a perfect time for me to take a pause. We've got 7 more sections to go, so I'm going to do a second stream next Saturday, and we'll finish this up. Are there any questions with what I've gone over right now? If not, I am going to go ahead and call it a day. I really appreciate you guys for showing up. I hope that what I've given you has been useful to you and that you can put it to work for you. You don't have to build a business with your story, but I will tell you that building a business with your story is the best place to start. Great. I'm glad that I must have done an amazing job teaching. Woo! For me. If you do have any questions, most of you guys are in Brian's Discord. Most of you know me or can shoot an email to Ubi. You can also shoot an email to me. And I will be happy to help you put together your story, put together an offer, whatever you want to do. It's my goal to equip you guys with every tool you need to succeed in life and to be the very best people that you are capable of being.